Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Bigfoot Society Tales from the Comments. I've got a lot of really cool things that came into the comments on the YouTube channel to share with you tonight, or whenever you're watching this. Uh, did want to get one thing out of the way first. If you're wondering what my thoughts are on the Colorado Bigfoot video that I've been sent probably hundreds of times and tagged in, and everyone that knows me in some way or another has sent this to me. Uh, Hold on. I think the truth is going to come out very soon about it. When I look at it up close, it looks very close to a costume to me. The way that it moves, I'm not really a big fan of. It moves weird. So I'm going to go with that this is some kind of hoax. But stay tuned. There's a lot of really good people that are going to do some in depth looking into this. And I think they'll be sharing their thoughts soon. But my gut reaction is that we're looking at some kind of hoax. So stay tuned. We'll see what comes out of this. But let's get into Tales from the Comments. Along with interesting stories that are shared in the comments, I also like to share some really nice comments from different subscribers. And this is from, I'm going to say Emily. I apologize if this is if I said that wrong, but Emily is in the she's a YouTube channel member. She's supporting the channel through being a YouTube channel member for Bigfoot Society, so she gets to watch episodes first, and she does not have to watch ads. As a lot of the comments are too many ads, well, I have to put them in there to keep the podcast going. So if you don't want the ads, you can become a YouTube channel member or join the Patreon. But Emily says, shout out from a Swedish subscriber. Love this channel and listening to everyone's encounters. I imagine most of us watching are just trying to understand what we've experienced ourselves. Looking forward to more episodes. Keep it up. I think you're absolutely right. A lot of the people watching, I know, are trying to make sense of what they have seen themselves. And I have a ton of people reaching out in the email every day, and they just want to be heard. Hopefully, I can share some of those stories soon. But they're incredible. Some of the stuff that I've gotten recently. But Emily, thank you so much for your support and for being a YouTube channel member. Here's an interesting report that came in through the comments from user Brian. And this is from the We Were Chased Out of the Iowa Woods by Four Bigfoot video, which a lot of people have enjoyed. It's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing. Iowa native here, central Iowa, in fact. It sounds like you might have been in and around the town of Dayton, Dolliver Park area, which is along the Des Moines River. I was there hunting for morels in the woods a few years back. If listeners don't know what morels are, it's a type of mushroom. It's a big deal. Hunting for morels out here in Iowa. Let me know in the comments if you hunt for morels where you're at and what's the biggest one you found. But we had rocks thrown at me and heard several loud tree knocks. No physical sightings, however. I hightailed it out of there just the same. Nothing compared to your encounter. Yikes. Well, Brian, that's incredible. I might want to look into that Dolliver Park area and see how close it is to me. But thank you so much for sharing your encounter. There's more to Iowa than people would realize when it comes to Bigfoot encounters, especially in the southeast and the northeast of the state. You can listen to my Iowa Bigfoot presentation a few episodes back that I did at the Van Meter Visitor Festival. I think there's a lot of really interesting information in there. Here's a comment from the Skinwalker Ranch of Minnesota episode from user Sidalicious. See if you can interview the neighbor too. Such an interesting guest. He's got a great attitude that these watches are responding to. Please do a part 2. You know, that's a great idea. I like that. I might try to reach out to Randy to see if his neighbor was talking about dogmen. I think I might actually do that. You may start to see some dogman encounters come up on the channel, and you might start to see some other things as well. I won't spoil the surprise, but let's just say I had artist Jonathan Dodd make a few extra triangles to use in uh, the channel art that is not they're not Bigfoot related. So, little more to come and stay tuned for sure. But here's an interesting one from the same episode. User Rita, which Rita, you've put some incredible comments on recent videos. Thank you for that. I heard a story from 1835 where a man was talking to a Sasquatch and it told the man that they are here to destroy the souls of man. The man rebuked it and he left the man alone. That's really interesting. I would love to hear more about that or where you heard it from, Rita. And I'm going to say the email once because I've gotten a few comments that are like, hey, you don't have to say your email 7,000 times. Well, maybe I'll just say it one time and see if you guys remember. I'll probably say it more than once, but the email is bigfootsociety@gmail.com. You can also actually, there we go. I've gotten a banner too. If you're watching the YouTube, you can also call or text 515-809-0165 if you want to contact me. And you do have to leave a voicemail though, because I'm not gonna, well, just leave a voicemail. We'll leave it at that. Anyways, Rita, I would love to hear more about the 1835 soul destroying Sasquatch. What's the deal with that? If anyone already knows, put it in the comments. Here's a fun one from, it looks like Carol, from Joe, the Sasquatch Whisperer of Mississippi. I've heard him tell this story on Bigfoot Crossroads. Great podcast. If you're not listening to Bigfoot Crossroads, you need to be too. That's my neck of the woods. I grew up on the bayou that emptied into the Neches, and we even water skied into that nasty river not far down from Evadale. The Big Thicket is an interesting place to grow up and raise kids in. Lots of weird things in these woods too. I'd love to hear what those weird things are. Reach out to me, please. And if listeners, if you've also had weird things happen in that area, feel free to reach out as well. From a short called Sasquatch Chases the Deer, user says, I've heard a 25-second scream a few years back in the Angelina National Preserve. I own 35 acres in South Texas, heard bobcat, coyotes, owls. The scream gave me goosebumps, hair on end. I was like Roadrunner, beep, beep. Back to the cabin I was renting. This was 2:30 a.m. with the night fishing. Top waters for bass. Well, good for you doing some night fishing. That's always a fun time. I have never done that myself, but I imagine it's when the fish are biting. But man, a 25-second scream. That's crazy. If you've heard longer than that, let me know in the comments. And man, just a weird thought. If you've heard weird stuff in Bumping Lake, throw that in there too. Man, if you haven't heard the Tristan Yolton episode yet, you need to listen to that. That's a good one. From They're Coming Out of the Parks, They're Inside the Cities, West Lynn, Oregon episode, Chewy says, I used to live in Willamette just south of West Lynn. We heard things in the area of the park at night that I thought might be the hairy people. Wow, that's really interesting. Chewy, reach out to me. You know how. Because this area is just south of Portland, but it's also, I think, a little bit in the woods. A little bit in the woods. Feel free to educate me in the comments if you'd like. But what kind of things have you been hearing out in the park at night? Here's an interesting short story from user John. In 76, I was 14 years old. Me and my neighbor went turkey hunting. In broad daylight, in the open, no brush whatsoever. A Bigfoot screamed at us. When it screamed, it was about 50 feet away, and my neighbor pointed his gun at him. At that time, he was about 20 feet away. I turned to run. I was screaming, don't shoot, don't shoot. I got a really good look at him. I could see the wrinkles on his face and hands. He was taking about 5-foot steps. John, that's incredible. Please reach out to me. You know how. Listeners, if you've got a incredible encounter like this, please reach out to me. Put it in the comments if you'd like to do that. But man, another individual who is out turkey hunting or deer hunting. Those hunters out there, you guys and gals have seen some really incredible things. Hats off to you for the ones that continue to go out in the woods, and I can totally understand the ones that don't. User Terry, and I would imagine that this is from the Skinwalker of the North, Skinwalker Ranch of the North, Minnesota episode. Really enjoy this video. I have activity as well and do most of what Randy mentioned. It's nice to know that someone else is doing what I do. Well, Terry, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you more about what kind of activity you are having. Here's an interesting one from user Mona. One thing that came to mind is that he appears to be able to communicate rather well with the Sasquatch. He asks them to do something and they end up doing it. To me, this means that they understand what he's doing or what he's saying. This being so, then why not ask them questions about other things? In his shoes, I would ask them about the dogman, little people, aliens, portals, etc. I would ask if they are aware of any of these things, and if so, what can they disclose about them? I would also be curious to find out if they know how long their people have been in existence, and do they believe in a divine creator? They may be able to give him info that would provide a few more puzzle pieces. To me, this is so obvious that they are not any type animal. I believe that some so called experts are prisoners of their own theories. They discard any evidence that doesn't fit with their beliefs. There's a lot of really interesting viewpoints in there. If you've got a viewpoint to that viewpoint that Mona went ahead and put in the comments, I would love to hear. And that might be an interesting follow up question for Randy is what happens if you ask them questions about other things, like the dog man that lives on the property next door? Going back to the we were chased out of the Iowa woods by four Bigfoot, user Stick says, same sound we heard right beside my truck, and it was talking to another right beside my friend's tent, 15 feet away. Well, Stick, I would love to hear if this happened in Iowa, what state this happened is, and what kind of sound that you heard. I would love to know more about your story. You know how to reach out. There's a lot of interesting things going on, guys, in the comments of the 4-year standoff with Sasquatch in Rainier, Oregon. As I've said multiple times, there's more to come for this story. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell icon, as there will be more to come with more information that you have not heard in other platforms. Just putting that out there. User Amanda says, I live in Rainier. Do some research on Gobel, Oregon. This is the area of strange events, definite military activity, and some of the strangest encounters at nighttime. Lights, noises, shadow creatures. Also, do a YouTube search of a St. Helens, Oregon police officer with audio of what is believed to be a UFO on the Columbia River. I want to say it happened in the early 80s. It will blow your mind. There's so much paranormal activity around here, which is Columbia County in Oregon. It's crazy. Amanda, thank you for giving me some leads, especially about Gobel, Oregon. And listeners, if you've heard of weird things happening in Oregon around that area of the Columbia River Gorge, Rainier, Gobel, etc., please reach out to me or put it in the comments. You can give me a call. You know how to contact me. And hopefully we can start to put some connections between certain events in this Columbia River Gorge area of Oregon. Very, very interesting stuff. Thanks for reaching out, Amanda. Here's a nice comment that I received on the Fred Roll episode. Tons of people have been digging this, of course, because Fred Roll, such a nice guy. Make sure you are subscribed to his channel. Subarctic Alaskan Sasquatch, I believe. Guys, like and share. Need to spread this show everywhere. Absolutely. Guys, most of my growth comes from people, and I have the info to back this up for my analytics. Most of the growth of these episodes come from people sharing via Gmail and text message. Please, if you are a fan of the show and you want to see it grow, take a few minutes to share 5 episodes in texts, emails to people that would love to hear more. User says, love Fred's story. And I want to say this is probably Jeff Lilly by the picture, which I have interviewed him in the past as well. He's a great author. Love Fred's story and so glad he gave me permission to use it in my upcoming book, Sasquatch: The Push to Prove Evidence. I'm excited to see that book as well. Thank you for commenting that. Channel member Subrosa 7716. Happy to hear more of the weird stuff coming out, whether people like it or not. These things are not apes. It's an interesting viewpoint, one that doesn't gel with mine, but hey, it is what it is. We all have our our own ways we believe, which is fine when it comes to Bigfoot, because as I've said hundreds of times, there are no right or wrong answers yet. And if you say there are, you're just a sad individual. Sorry. Sad in that, guys, if we're getting bent out of shape over if Bigfoot is an ape or not, you can talk to other people that think differently than what you think, and you can learn stuff from them. That's all I'm going to say. But, I believe one way, Subrosa, you believe another, and that is no problem with me. Let me know in the comments what you think Bigfoot is. Do you think it's a alternate universe creature, a lost humanoid, a feral person, an ape? All sorts of weird stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think. Here's a fun one from user Aloysius Jackson. From their coming out of the parks, they're inside the cities. I think the reptoids, which run our government, are finally coming out of their dumbs. I think that stands for deep underground military bases and chasing the Squatch into the cities. Maybe a few of the missing persons in the national forest are due to the Squatch, but most are snatched up by the reptoids. That's the first I've ever heard of the reptoids, and I don't know if that's the same thing as reptile people or whatever that means. I'm not very versed in that, but let me know exactly what's going on with these reptoids and dumbs and everything in the comments. Give me some things to watch, or if you are an expert on dumbs or reptoids, let me know and maybe we can chat. There's more to this. Sorry. This of course is just my thoughts and opinions from my own research. This isn't just about Bigfoot, but all these unknown creatures that seem to be showing themselves more and more. A big setup? Maybe. Conspiracy theory? No, I don't think so. This is real for so many people. That's incredible. If you think that the reptoid interaction with Bigfoot is real to you, let me know. Here's a really interesting comment from user Bumblebee on the shocking link between Bigfoot and missing persons. Just like an octopus can change their color to exactly match and blend in with whatever they're touching, so are some of these beings or creatures, and why they are so hard to detect. I studied photos and videos, and unless you know what you're looking for, your eyes will pass right over them. They live in and around all mountain areas, inside national parks, forests all over the world. We humans live in the open areas on Earth, and they live within the mountains, forests on Earth. They know how to hide themselves and blend in with whatever they're touching or surrounding. It was made to be this way, but somewhere down the line, I think some humans poked their noses where it didn't belong, opening the door between our reality and theirs. Contracts were made, and the truth is being hidden from us. Well, I'd love to know what's the truth that's being hidden. How did they open up these doors between different realities? Sounds pretty interesting. A fun conversation to have. Let me know how that happened in the comments. It reminds me of the game Half-Life 2. If you've never played the game Half-Life 2, it's a classic, and I would recommend that you track it down. Not Bigfoot related at all, but man, is it fun. And it has to do with opening up portals, different realities. Check it out. It's a must play. User Ben says, I was listening to Fred Roll on your channel on Spotify. Shout out Spotify. You can listen to Bigfoot Society on Spotify. You said you have never heard of mountain giants. Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube is a wealth of knowledge and information. He's got pictures of mountain giants, aka 18-foot tall Sasquatch, and it seems to me and many others that the mountain giants have more of the fallen angel DNA than what 5-toed, 8 to 10-foot Sasquatch have. I'm sure Duke would love to come on your channel. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know much about the mountain giants. I know that Fred was able to share some, and it was fascinating. If you know more about these mountain giants, please share it in the comments. And if you have contact with Duke Sullivan, maybe reach out to him and see if he's interested. Could be a fun chat. I don't know if I want to mess with the mountain giants, but it sounds like they're up there in Alaska. And I don't know if we're ready for them. User Sherry, YouTube channel member. Appreciate you, Sherry. Holy moly, that was a horrifying account. Thank you for sharing, Fred. So glad you're still around. I am too. If you haven't listened to the Fred Roll episode, wow, it's incredible. It's the craziest encounter story I've ever heard. And myself, along with other people in the comments, we all agree. If Fred was not there with his relatives during that encounter, I don't think they really would have survived. That's a personal opinion, but man, did it get wild. It's worth a listen, and make sure that you are subscribed to his channel. Here's a fun historical account from Horrifying Hairy Man Encounters of Alaska with Fred Roll. From user Farmer, there are many BS stories about the subject, which is sad because they detract from the truth. Daniel Boone shot a Bigfoot to save his son's life. The story is in the National Archives and so is very credible. See what you think? He called it a wild man and measured it at 12.5 feet. So big un. He was picking up his son and slamming him to the ground, so to save his life, Daniel shot the wild man. The video of a Bigfoot fighting a brown bear grizzly is amazing to see. It's on the Jailbreak Overlander channel. Free advertising there. And Richie's personal Bigfoot experiences are amazing too. Well, check them out. Next up, back to the Skinwalker Ranch in Minnesota. Elaine says, FYI, Randy, there have been individuals who have actually seen Sasquatch hitting the trees with sticks, and they do make popping noises with their mouths, but they do hit trees. That's interesting. I am also an individual that believes that these creatures are making the noise by making a popping noise with their mouth, kind of like this, but a lot louder. I don't want to burst out your eardrums. Here's a nice comment from an individual builder. I don't know how I missed this channel before. What an absolute little gem. That is so nice. This is up there with Sasquatch Chronicles. Listening every night now. Great stuff, lads. Subscribed. I appreciate that nice comment. And it's by comments like this and people sharing with their friends and in their groups that this channel grows. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. User comments on the classic Country, the Oklahoma Bigfoot Bounty Hunter. User says, I was born late in my dad's life. He was born in 1903, and he spoke about wild men in Oklahoma. Well, user, you got to reach out and let me know some of those things that your father shared with you if you can. I am always loving to hear stories from Oklahoma. You have no idea. You probably do, actually. From the Fred Roll episode, user Bobby says, I'm privileged enough to know Fred personally and call him friend. What you see is what you get. He's the salt of the earth. He's what you call good people. And I can totally get that as well from the interview I had with him. Speaking of Alaska, here's one from old friend Joe Morris. Thank you, Jeremiah and Fred. I have the greatest respect for both of you for allowing people to tell the truth. As both of you know, I myself have seen a disappearing stump and 2 Sasquatch people. I also have heard a bunch of yelling, talking, and laughing. Take care, Joe Morris. Joe, you're always welcome to reach back out to me if you uh, encounter any other things. I know I've talked to you in the past and you had some wild stuff happen. User Proud says, I'll never understand these people that claim to have high def footage, but then also refuse to show it. It seems like everyone that claims to have the best footage of these things always refuses to show it. If they didn't, we would have all seen it. If you don't want the scrutiny, then allow someone else to release it or do it anonymously. You know, that's a really interesting viewpoint. And I try to think that myself, think through that. And the only thing I can think of is, you go through the daily interaction with these creatures, and the same comments come in on the Rainier episode. And I don't think we get it until we've lived through something like that. The fear, the terror of what it's like to live in constant interaction with these characters. And I think you don't want on top of these creatures being in your area, you don't want to be bombarded by the hundreds, the thousands of news reporters, like what happened to people in the 70s when they would report their sighting. I don't think they want that. So on the one hand, yeah, I'm totally with you where I would love this footage that he talked about to be released. But sometimes I think we have to look a little bit deeper as to how it would affect the people that took the video. Moving on to yet another Alaska comment. My family moved to Anchorage, Alaska in 1965. We camped around Talkeetna, the Independence Mine area, all over to get out of Anchorage for a weekend family trip. I feel lucky. I never saw anything that scared me in the woods. I now live in Washington State. I still go camping. I still love the woods. Thank you for sharing your stories. I hope you still continue to love the woods and go camping. And if you ever are fortunate or unfortunate enough, depending how you look at it, to have an encounter with a Sasquatch, please reach out. Here is a fun one. And this is this comment, once I read it, I really want to know more. This is from the Dark Secrets of the Enchanted Circle episode, which is a great episode. It's one of my favorite. It's not specifically focused on Bigfoot, but there's a lot to it. User Force Cop says, Dogmen aren't real, FYI. There are different clans near or in various wilderness areas like Wheeler Peak. I'll never tell any more where they're at here in northern New Mexico. This user has some information. I would love for user Forest Cop to reach out to me. I'm going to say the email and say it twice and get away with it. BigfootSociety@gmail.com. Please reach out to me, Forest Cop. I feel that you have some interesting encounters, stories that I would love to chat with you about. Continuing, user Wan on the Fred Roll episode says, I commented on a previous video. The stories you're posting are totally legit, in my opinion. Again, not from personal direct experience, but from stories related to me from an extremely reliable friend and from video and photo evidence. He told me he could show me families of them existing in an abandoned mining camp. I'm trying to contact him to see if his offer is still good. It's very frightening, of course. But in his estimation, I'm not sure how to put this. They are apex predators, and in some ways, they have abilities to sense the frequency of their prey far beyond what humans are discernibly capable at this point. I don't know why I want to see this. I'll tell you what, if this individual that has evidence of families of them existing in an abandoned mining camp, or if you get the information, please reach out to me. That would be an incredible, incredible chat. Going back a few episodes to the classic 30 Years of Bigfoot Stories with Rick Rasmer, user Sudell or Estelle, I haven't been to Bigfoot Acres, but I recognize and have been to every other place you talked about. Maybe someday I'll share my story about what happened at Faraday Dam at the far end of the fishing area one morning. Well, you are more than welcome to reach out, and you know how. And I would love to hear what happened to you at Faraday Dam. I'm guessing that's in the Pacific Northwest, but we'll see. Shout out to Judy, a watcher, who left a $9.99 super thanks on a video. I believe this is on the Rainier video. Super thanks are great. It's a way that you can support the channel for a one-time donation through YouTube by leaving a super thanks, which shows that you contributed on a specific video. You can also do super stickers, super chats on live premieres, but if you just want to do a one-time thing, you can also do it as a super thanks on an actual video. Judy, I appreciate you. You are actually helping out and allowing me to get closer to my goal of going full-time. And I know I need to talk about this more, but we're getting closer and closer. The goal is to get full-time by the end of 2024. And with the help of people actually being YouTube channel members and Patreon subscribers and one-time donators through Buy Me a Coffee and super thanks, super chats, we're going to get there. Here's a fun comment from Canuck Chris from the Fred Roll episode. Man, your channel is all I need these days. This, like so many of your guest stories, are intense. P.S. Must be something wrong with me. I fall asleep listening to the stories. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So I put a comment out there, a post saying, what are you doing when you're listening to Bigfoot Society? That led to some interesting comments, but the one that I got the most was going to sleep. So then my follow-up question people can answer in the comments is it because my voice is a certain way and it helps you fall to sleep, or I'm putting you to sleep, or it's just a fun thing that's relaxing at the end of your day? Maybe this is something I should be leaning into, doing ASMR, doing bedtime stories. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. User Jim Grimes. Yes, I've seen and have had many encounters with them over the years. I'm also the founder of the Southern Bigfoot Research Team. I'm currently working on a book stating facts that I know about them firsthand and I've personally observed them doing. Jim, please reach out. I would love to talk to you about your encounters over the years. Here is another Rainier multi-page comment. There we go. Make this a little bit bigger. Swedish Chef says, I've lived up the hill in Rainier for the past 30 years. I'm an avid outdoorsman. I've hunted those power lines up from Trojan. I've seen very large black bear tracks, and I've stopped hunting certain areas based on a very distinct feeling of uncomfort. I usually chalk it up to the fear of the mountain lions that populate this area, but the potential of something far worse is possible. I've never seen a squatch. I've seen what I believed was a squatch shelter. I have pictures of that. To all those people talking about cameras and pics, this area is unforgiving. The brush and terrain is so difficult to navigate. Situation is improving out here, but the service is spotty, so why even bring a phone? A camera is a tough go due to the moisture. The area is considered a rainforest by definition. The guy's story is believable, but I wouldn't put it past the local hillbilly family that wants to drive out a Californian family up here, especially one that just cut up all the old growth timber that moves on to the next town. If you have doubts of whether or not these things exist, come up here and walk 10 miles through the woods from Clatsop to Columbia counties. No roads, just through the timber. I guarantee you will find things that will make you believe in the possibility. I will also guarantee that you will be watched by something that will snap the life out of you in seconds, and severely doubt you'll have enough time to pull out your phone to take a picture. That is the most real talk comment I've heard in a long time. And I believe that this individual is absolutely 100% accurate. You go out there in the woods, you're going to run into stuff, and you're not going to have the time to take a video because you're going to be freaking out in ways you couldn't even imagine. Thank you so much for leaving that comment, Swedish Chef. I appreciate it. If you ever have any encounters or things happen to you when you're out in the woods, please reach out to me. Here's an interesting group of comments from Ban Everything. I reported a very frightening UFO encounter with missing time to MUFON and talked to one of them on the phone. I thought it was very important to document it. I got an odd feeling from the guy on the phone. They wanted me to travel from Louisiana to Florida to be hypnotized. My encounter was on the upper Sabine River in a region that's a Bigfoot hotspot. Now, all those easy to find stories about this region have vanished from the internet. The FRO was in Sabine Parish in Louisiana doing an investigation. This is only a short distance from my encounter down the river where Toledo Bend Lake begins. We'll continue on. My older sister and a group of her friends saw Bigfoot in the 1970s on a pipeline in central Louisiana near LaSalle Parish. I've been growled at. People who have experienced this know. The closest thing I can compare it to is an African lion, way too loud and powerful to be any regular animal in Louisiana. A sound that you can actually feel. And I never went back hunting there. It was in the Bella Count community area on a logging road in LaSalle Parish, about 5 miles from the Jena airport. I've been heavily involved in outdoor activities here for nearly 60 years, and I'm not unfamiliar with the animal life here and grew up on a farm too. The LaSalle Parish police tracked a man in a monkey suit hit by a car in Trout, Louisiana, just a few miles west of Jena, Louisiana. It damaged the car and fled into a swampy area. That story, which made national news, has mysteriously vanished. Maybe the police still have the report or the archives of the Jena Times newspaper. These are some of my favorite comments because there are so many specific accounts referenced to in certain areas, in certain stories that someone watching this or listening to this must have more information that they can provide by leaving it in the comments or contacting me directly. Ban Everything, I really appreciate you reaching out with that detailed comment. Speaking of people that are helping out the channel, over on Buy Me a Coffee, which you can find the link to that in the comments, user Bumstead bought you 3 coffees. Enjoy the channel. Minnesota craziness really makes me want to load up my Suburban and go try to find out for myself. I bought the book after listening. Keep it up, Jay. Bumstead, I appreciate you doing a one-time support by buying 3 coffees on buymeacoffee.com. Good stuff. This is from the Bigfoot in Iowa presentation from user Kevin Lentz. The unfaltering, indefatigable Jeremiah Byron is like the Energizer Bunny. He never stops, and we, his fans, greatly appreciate him. Thanks so much, JB. You make this so much fun. All respect to those who share their experiences with you, Jeremiah. Special thank you to them. Kevin, you are one of the nicest individuals in the chat, and I really appreciate your kind words all the time. And you're making me learn some new vocabulary as well. Really appreciate you. From user Dames on 4-Year Standoff with Sasquatch and Rainier writes, thanks with a $2 super thanks. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Here's an interesting thought from Lost Bigfoot Encounters of 1960s Canada, a previous Tales from the Comment. Power plants discharge their warm wastewater into rivers, lakes, or oceans. In cold weather, fish like warm water. So I think what the individual is saying is that there might be these Bigfoot encounters by power plants because of the warm wastewater that's being discharged, and the fish go there, and now you have a new resource area for the Sasquatch to eat. I'm on board. It's a cool idea. From user Pirate Style, from the Fred Roll episode, I heard the baby crying out back behind my house. So did my dog, so I wasn't imagining it. I was so conflicted to go into the woods or go back to my house. I could not wrap my head around what I was hearing. Sounded like a very young child around 2 or 3 years old crying. After some silence, aside from me calling out, I got the creeps and went back to the house. And I think you probably made the right decision. Because I've heard many accounts and seen many documentaries where in certain areas they try to lure people into the woods by doing baby cries. Very, very scary stuff. You want to be careful what you go into the woods to find out more about. Baby cries? No thanks. Back to the 4-year standoff. User Shirley, I've heard hundreds of stories and this has to be one of the best. I've never seen one, but I know for a fact they are real. In 1965, deep in the Nordegg, Alberta bush, that's in Canada, I saw their footprints. These footprints were pristine. You could see the dermal ridges plain and clear. I've talked to a few people from the Nordegg area, and that is one of the best places for Bigfoot encounters. I'm not surprised that back in that time frame, you saw footprints. Here's some interesting information from the Country, the Oklahoma Bigfoot Bounty Hunter episode, which if you haven't heard that yet, it's a trip. You should go check it out. User Robert Bott says, I do believe this, men. There are many sightings in Caddo County. That's where I'm from. Lots of canyons and hills, trees for cover, from Kogar to Riverside Indian School to the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. We were recently on Cache Creek nearby Apache, Oklahoma, helping my stepdaughter's friend who was stuck in the mud in a field. Goofball was going fishing and high centered there. We walked in about a mile and heard growling on the way out. It was deep, audible, chest-rattling growls. We walked out pretty quickly. I've heard a bull grunt. This was not a bull. LOL, there are no cattle in the vicinity. It made our hair stand up. I'm not surprised. Man, it's been a long time since I've had a solid Oklahoma Bigfoot encounter. If you've had a Class A or had some wild stuff happen in the Oklahoma area, especially in the Southeast, do me a favor, reach out. I would love to hear more about your Oklahoma Bigfoot encounters. Rita's back, and this is on the At a Remote Lake in Arkansas episode. Yes, I've seen a UFO on June 16, 2011. My grandson was with me. It was beautiful, but scary. I think the next day was when there was something dropping down out of a tree below that area. I won't go onto any more detail in this comment. If you need to reach out, you sure can, Rita. Elaine writes, from someone who has experienced vocalizations, a log thrown against a standing tree, wood knocks, and finally a visual, I can tell you I feel very strongly when I'm hearing the truth from someone else. This man is the real deal. Thanks for sharing. I believe that was from the Fred Roll episode. Rita's back once more. I'm familiar with the area that he's talking about. Those lakes are very near where I live, I think. There are Bigfoot in this area. I've seen a little one and heard a big one howl. They used to throw gravel at our house. Rita, definitely reach out. And you know how. I would love to hear more about how you've seen a Bigfoot. Here's an interesting comment, and I apologize. I'm not going to be able to pronounce correctly some of these words. It's from the Fred Roll episode from user Over Ice Cream. Hadi. Geez, hola. These mystical beings seem to have more land to live off in Alaska, eh? I don't know how the Tlingits lived with these beings. Alaska is so remote before six-toed Sasquatch. I was told in the 80s my dad encountered a Sasquatch kneeling in a ditch on Highway 16 just off our reserve in our Wet'suwet'en territory. As a child, I used to walk on the highway to go to friends or the subdivision. What in the world? Sasquatches walk through our community? My community is in a valley surrounded by mountains, eh? Ishik. I have much respect for the indigenous. I'm sorry, I should know how to pronounce that. Indigenous, apologies. Indigenous people of Alaska. Shne Kale, Bigfoot Society, Fred. To the listeners, have a blessed evening. Someone can give me a lesson in proper pronunciation. Feel free to do so. Here is an interesting comment that came in off of an older episode. This is with my episode with Dr. Jeff Meldrum back in 2021. User Mike says, Dr. Jeff is always the best. Wife, dogs, and I trail walk 3 to 5 times each week here on the Olympic Peninsula, and I think we are slowly habituating with some local Sasquatch smells, strange bird calls, a 9-foot tall tree peaker, and twice having boulders thrown at us that land a few feet away with a thud. I would love to stay if I were alone, but the wife and our dogs, including a tough cougar chasing German shepherd, whine, cry, cower between my legs, and force me to get them out of here. We will continue our journey every other day or every day through this winter season, and that is when they seem to be around more than in tourist season. Mike, it sounds like you're about ready to launch into some crazy stuff in your area where you trail walk, and I would love to chat with you about it if things start to escalate more. Feel free to reach out. Here's a fun comment. User Stacy says, I work third shift and listen to you every morning when I get off of work. You always have good content. Keep up the good work. Here's the thing, Stacy, I appreciate that. And so on the one hand, I do this show to help get people's stories out, help people get it off their chest so they can get on with their lives. I'm also finding out that a lot of my listeners are hardworking Americans and people from around the world, and it helps them get through their day. And it helps people that have physical ailments or they have pain issues, and them listening to my podcast helps them just get through the day and focus on something else. And I want to say that I do this for you guys. I do not do this show for people that are concerned about reputation. There's a comment I believe I got, and I don't think I have it in today's episode, but aren't you afraid of your reputation because of some of the stories that are on your channel? No, absolutely not. That is not why I do this. And in fact, if you are concerned about your reputation, I can guarantee that you're in this for the wrong reason. And come at me in the comments. I don't care. But yeah. I'm doing this for the people that listen, the hard workers, the people that have experienced, and the people that want to share. So no, I am not concerned about my reputation at all. That's not what I'm in here to do this. It's not my deal. So I don't really care. I'm here to help people share their stories. And if you want to come along for the ride, then by all means, let's have a good time. User Bullfrog says the park he was talking about is Yellow River State Park outside of Harper's Ferry, Iowa. That's true. In the episode that there was an Iowa episode where it was referred to as Yellow Creek, I believe. And I think that I can't remember what exact episode that is, but it's an older one because I didn't know about Yellow River yet, so I didn't correct him. Rita, you're back at it again. There are white Bigfoot in Missouri. I got to hear about these white Bigfoot. I've heard about them in Alabama and Northeast Pennsylvania, but haven't heard about them in Missouri, I think. Send me some info. On the Salt Fork episode, Chestnut Ridge has a long, long history of creepiness from DC. Well, man, I would love to know what you've heard, because I've heard some stuff, but I think there's stuff that people have not heard out there. So reach on out. Here's a fun one from Sheila. Excuse me. Also on the Salt Fork episode. I know about the cougar thing. I lived in Mass a few years. One day driving to Springfield, I saw a dead one in the middle of the highway. I noticed by the time I came back, someone had removed it, but I told people about it and no one believed me. They said they don't exist out there. Well, I'd taken a course in wildlife management and I love tracking in wildlife. I know what I saw. I'll tell you what, I grew up in Western Mass, up in Northfield in Franklin County. We absolutely had cougars out there, catamounts, mountain lions, whatever you want to call them. So the whole wildlife management people saying that the mountain lions aren't around. Nah, they're just keeping it hidden. They're around. People see them. Here's another one from Sheila. I also have had a lot of Bigfoot experiences and seen a very strange footprint, heard a werewolf howling. Call it that because it's exactly what it sounds like to me. Heard it in the fall 3 years in a row. My husband has had a couple experiences himself. Maybe I'll tell you about it sometime, but it's way too much to write out. Plus, I'm not a good writer and I hate it. But it would feel good to talk about it to someone who would actually believe me because it is crazy stuff. I know that. Makes one wonder sometimes if they're crazy. But I know what I've seen and heard, no matter how crazy it is. Sheila, you're in the right place. You can reach out to me, bigfootsociety@gmail.com, or you can leave me a voicemail or text me at 515-809-0165. Or I am starting the live call-in show up again on YouTube. Bigfoot Society AM is what I'm calling it this time. And it's going to be Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to see more, it's going to be under the live section on YouTube. And I'll try to remember to have a um, link to it in the comments of this video. But pretty much you have to be watching the YouTube video, and I'll have how to call me to share your encounters live on YouTube. And then that'll be part of a future, potentially part of a future Bigfoot Society episode. So you have to be okay with being recorded as well. But this has been a fun time sharing, again, some tales from the comments. I get comments like this every day. I can barely keep up with it. But I wanted to share these with you. Again, thank you to everyone who is supporting Bigfoot Society, who shares Bigfoot Society, and who listens every day and watches on YouTube. Those four things are what keeps the podcast growing and which will keep us going to the moon. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you next time.